Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include: I had an interview with our MHA, the Honorable David Gilbert. Members of our community were presented with Canada's 125th anniversary medallions. Parson's Trucking are installing a drainage system near the seniors complex. Council has its new dog pound completed, and more, so please stay tuned.
Dear Mrs. Coleman, you don't know me, but I know you know my old red house at the end of the lane. Please forgive me for tracking you down, but I had to thank you. I'm not sure what inspired your kindness. Oh, it's a godsend. Since my wretched hip surgery, just getting to the end of the lane and back takes nearly half an hour, and sometimes the pain just isn't worth it. You brought me something much more important than newspapers. You brought me the understanding that it's the small, the simple things that really help people.
If you're doing just a little, you're helping a lot. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I had an interview with our MHA, the Honorable David Gilbert, this past week. Welcome to our studio once again, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, David. It's nice to be back again.
Have you heard anything further regarding the sea freeze deal from...
No, David. The only thing that I've heard regarding the sea freeze deal was the copy of a letter that I obtained that Mr. Crosby wrote to Bill Barry, which shocked me to no end, and I don't know if it surprised me, because when we had the meeting with Mr. Crosby in St. John's, you know, he gave every indication that he was sympathetic to Burgeo, but his last statement was the thing that put me a little bit on my guard. He said, what will the people of Canso do if I cancel this whole deal? And my statement to him was the time that, he said, who will protect me from the people of Canso if I cancel this whole deal? And I said, who will protect you from the people of Burgeo if you take the fish out of Burgeo? But he obviously didn't listen too much. Now, as you know, this is a complete and utter scam. Crosby, has given the quota of fish which was originally processed in Burgeo to Canso, and by doing that, he has put this plant in Burgeo in jeopardy, and there is no other word you can use for it, because Mr. Barry closed this plant in April of last year, and temporarily, and then in September he said it was closed indefinitely, and we haven't heard anything else from Mr. Berry. Now, Mr. Berry was allowed to take the fish from Burgeo, scurry out, and process this fish in Canso, and now there's still no negotiations going on with the Burgeo or the people of Burgeo as to what's going to happen to the plant. Now, since I've been here this time, I've had a meeting with the committee, Mr. Kendall and his committee, and they discussed some action they were going to take. One of the things that they are now going to do is that they are thinking that they should get the people of Burgeo involved in some sort of a petition, first of all, to, the both levels of government. And I think the Fishermen's Union here were possibly going to spearhead this, but in conjunction with the committee, because it must be, everybody must be pulling on the rope at the same end, and this time, to get the strength that we need to get everybody in Burgeo behind what's going on here. The other thing that the committee has decided to do is that they are going to write Mr. Cashin and asked him to become more active in this role as to what's going to happen, and asked him to solicit Mr. Crosby directly and asked him what is the fate of Burgeo now that he has done this dastardly deed that he has done by taking this fish out of Burgeo. Because, it's great to say that people are working behind the scenes, but when this deal was originally made, the Fishermen Union were very vocal that they were against it, and we haven't heard the same, degree from the Fishermen's Union, the provincial Fishermen's Union. We haven't heard the same degree of vehemence when they go after Mr. Crosby as they did when they went after both the federal government and Seafreeze when the deal was being signed. So this letter will go just to ask them what is their position now and how can they help the community of Burgeo. As you know, the provincial government have gone on record as saying that they are opposed, directly and diametrically opposed to what Mr. Crosby did. They think it's immoral, and it has placed this community in jeopardy, because the fishery of the future that we're going to be talking about is going to be hinged on several factors, and the provincial government is not going to point and say, here's a plant here that you're going to open, here's a plant there that you're going to open. The will of the owners of the plant to open has to be considered, and if Mr. Berry hasn't got any intention of opening this plant, there's very little that anyone can do to tell him to open it. And if it's going to be open, it has to be a viable plant. Now, there's a working paper that the provincial government just put out called Changing Tides. I think I gave you a copy of it, and this is put out for the consideration of all the people that are going to be affected by the fishery, and they're going to be going around holding meetings and stuff like that. So that was another thing that we discussed at our meeting yesterday, that I suggested to Mr. Kendall and his committee that they request the provincial government now to come into Burgeo and hold the meeting and let as the people becomes familiar with what really was stated in that white paper that the provincial government has put out, and essentially what it says is that the provincial government is not going to say we're going to open plants here or there. There's 180 or 200 plants or whatever it is around the island in various places right now. Everybody is in agreement, I think the provincial government and the Fishermen's Union and the federal government, that in a restructured fishery you're not going to have 200 plants in this province. Maybe only half of them. And the ones that are going to operate are the ones that are considered to be efficient and effective and economically viable. So, now there's going to be some, the province is going to insist that they look at areas where traditionally there has been a fishery. And the South Coast fishery is one that's going to be looked at, because remember that the offshore fishery that we know about and have always taken part in Newfoundland was prosecuted from here on the South Coast. The first fish plants was Burgeo and Ramie and Grand Bank and Buren, and I suppose Galtas to some extent. But these were the first plants that were processing the offshore fish, and what they processed was Gulf of St. Lawrence and the Southern Grand Banks. Now, as this stock rebuilds, it's got to be processed somewhere. I would like to think that it's going to be processed in Burgeo. But this is the history of 4 or 5 years hence, I suppose. So it's things that we got to get together on now, and all the people of Burgeo have got to get together. I think we should be asking every community in Newfoundland, all the communities in Newfoundland, to say, look, there's been an injustice done to Burgeo, because this deal between Seafreeze and the federal government and the Nova Scotia government is the only deal of its kind. All the rest of the fish plants in Newfoundland are not contingent, their operation not contingent on a contract signed between the federal government and a private company. And Mr. Crosby, by letting Barry wiggle out of this thing, has put this plant here in jeopardy. So we've got to get the people in Burgeo more involved and more active, and asking more support. I hope that when the next session of the House of Assembly opens, the first thing that I have to do as the newly elected MHA is to take a petition from the people of Burgeo in and ask the House to send it to Mr. Crosby, because we've already had the provincial minister stand up and make a statement in the House saying, stating that he was upset with, to say the least, with what Mr. Crosby had done, and called on him to change his ways. So I think now the people of Burgeo have got to speak and make the same representation. And we got to ask everybody else involved, we got to ask Mr. Cash and the union to make the same statement to Mr. Crosby, ask him to reassess the decision he made and make sure that there is some hope put into the operation of this fish plant here, and force Barry's to either operate the plant or do the decent thing and find another operator.
Okay, Mr. Crosby has been supposedly coming to Burgeo for quite a while now, but hasn't yet showed up. Do you expect Mr. Crosby to come to Burgeo now?
I don't expect Mr. Crosby to come to Burgeo. Maybe he will. I hope he will. I have asked him again to come to Burgeo. In the last letter that I wrote him, I asked him to come to Burgeo now and justify the decision that he made by taking the quota that was originally processed in Burgeo, giving it to Canso, and letting Canso remain open while Burgeo is closed. I hope he comes.
Okay, have you heard anything on when the new hospital is expected to be completed?
Yes, the new hospital, I suppose, will be completed over the next couple of months, the actual physical building. Then it will take, 2 or 3 months to get the equipment and all that stuff in place. In the budget, the provincial budget that we are now discussing and will be passed, I suppose, when the House reconvenes again, there's $750,000 in that budget for the operation of the clinic as we know it right now, though it's down in the old hospital. And there's $2.2 million in it for the operation of the full hospital, which should be the end of September or in October sometime in the fall. And that was the commitment that the government made when we started to build this. We said we would have that hospital open by the fall of 1993. So in the budget right now, there's almost $3 million for the operation of the Burgeo Hospital for this year. $750,000 to operate the clinic from April up till the time that the hospital opens full, and then there's $2.2 million in the budget to take care of it for the remainder of the year up to the end of March.
Okay, so will that include the opening of the chronic care section as well?
The chronic care, the whole, as far as I'm concerned, that is the money to operate the whole facility. Now, we must bear in mind that we're not going to open the chronic care session unless there's people to go in it. If there's, there got to be, that will fill up as there is people, that available to go in it, because the day of opening a hospital and having it there with the vacant beds, those chronic care beds have got to be about 60 to 70% full before you can justify the expense of hiring the staff to maintain them, So I would assume that the demand is here, from what I can understand, with, like the amount of home care that's been given here now, I would say that a lot of those people that are in that level care will be moving in there. I mean, as you know, the chronic care beds are for beds that people that, need pretty well constant care. You mightn't be able to do much to improve their health. They might, it's more for an aged type or a disease that there's not an immediate cure for, but those people need constant care, and more care than they can be given at home. So the facility is there, and I'm sure that there's enough people from Francois de Grand Brett that needs that type of chronic care that are going to be facilitated during that hospital.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, David, only to, I suppose, this is the last time in this term that I'll be talking to the people of Burgeo as the MHA sort of thing. The next time that you and I will have a talk, and I would suggest maybe within the next weeks or so, once the election gets into full swing, I'll be talking as the candidate looking for re-election, but also the MHA until after the next election. And I'm certainly hoping that the people of Burgeo will give me their support again, and I've served them now for 8 years, and I look forward to serving them again for another 8. So there will be an election on the 3rd of May, and I will be talking to a lot of them directly over the next short while, asking for their support. But I have enjoyed working with them for the last 8 years, and as I say, I'm looking forward to at least another 4, and thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert, thank you for speaking with us, and we wish you the best of luck in the upcoming election.
Thank you, David.
4 members of our community received Canada's 125th anniversary medallions this year. Mr. Gilbert presented these medallions to 2 of the recipients in our studio this past week.
Good evening, Mr. Blagden, Mrs. Bowdridge. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and this is a very special occasion for you because I don't know how many people in Burgeo realize, but you people are members of a very select few that have been awarded the 125th anniversary of Confederation Medal, and this is the first one of these medals was issued at the Queen's coronation, and the second one was at the 100th anniversary of Confederation, and now it's at the 125th anniversary. So across Canada, there was 40,000 of those medals issued for the whole country, and it was then allotted out by province, and I think there's somewhere over 400 of them allotted in Newfoundland. And in Burgeo, there was 4 of those medals awarded. 2 of the recipients can't be here this evening. This is Barbara Barter is away in university, and Fire Chief Len Matthews, who's away in Nova Scotia somewhere visiting his family, his daughters. But I'm very happy that you, Mrs. Bowdridge, and you, Mr. Blagden, are here. So everybody, I suppose, is aware that those medals are presented to outstanding Canadians who have contributed to the life of their community by their involvement in the community. And so, Mrs. Bowdridge, I know that your involvement has been with the Girl Guides. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your involvement and stuff like that?
Well, I've been at 22 years with Girl Guides.
And I suppose that's a very rewarding thing to be working.
It's lovely. I love working with them.
How big is the Girl Guide company here in
I'd say there's about 80 now altogether, leaders now.
Yeah. So and I suppose is the movement still staying strong? Or
Very strong.
Yeah, good. And I'm sure that it is. It must be a rewarding program. Working with youth of any kind is a rewarding program. And you know, in Newfoundland, I suppose if we didn't have volunteers in those communities, the communities would almost fall apart.
That's right. That's what keeps them going.
That's right. And Mr. Black, you've been involved a little bit in the community yourself. I know that you were in one organization that's sort of dear to my heart, because I was the first fellow from out around the bay who was ever the Newfoundland Vice President in the Navy League, which was responsible for sea cadets in Newfoundland. So I was until the time that I became president of that organization, it was always someone in St. John's. So I know from the history of the Navy League that you are the fellow that formed sea cadets here. That was your first involvement in the community. So would you like to talk a little bit about that? Or your involvement with the community?
I formed it in 57.
57, yes.
57,
yeah.
There was 3 of us, Mac Critchell from Ramio,
Yeah.
and myself, and Reverend Charlie Green.
Oh, I see. How many cadets did you have?
We was only about 32 of them.
Oh, yeah. And did you, how long did you stay in the Sea Cadets, Mr. Lane?
I was in there 5 years,
Very good.
and I brought it back after I gave it up. I brought it back again because she started to go out.
Yeah. I suppose some of the fellows like Len Matthews, we just talked about her earlier, I suppose Len was one of your cadets, was he?
Yes, he was one of the cadets, and he was one of the leaders after.
Afterwards, yeah. So it shows how, you know, leadership and volunteerism in communities sort of carry on, and as a result, you know, no doubt the training, and I'm sure that Lynn was here, that he'd say that the training that he got in Sea Cadets helped him to become the citizen of Burgeo that he is, you know.
And before I formed Sea Cadets, I was a scout leader.
Were you?
5 years.
Oh, very good. And I understand you were overseas in the Second World War too?
That's right. And I had 27 years with the Canadian Rangers.
Oh, did you? Did you?
29 years, rather.
29 years.
29 years with
Very
the
good.
Canadian Rangers.
And in your working life, you were in the...
There's a search and rescue,
Oh, very good.
and we had our farm squad with it. We'd go and train every so often.
Oh, yeah, for the Rangers, yeah, yeah.
I was a surgeon then.
Oh, very good, very good. So,
And I was 16 years on the vestry in the church. I was on the school board, and I was on the town council first going off on this farm there in Burgeo.
so you've had a little political experience too. That in itself is sometimes rewarding, and sometimes you're in the front line. And Mrs. Bowdridge, how do you feel about this? You're involved. What do you think about the community now? Do you think that you know, your years of work for the community has helped you?
Yes, helped me and the children too.
Yeah. How many children do you have, Mrs. Bowdridge?
My own children?
Yeah.
I have 2 and 4 grandchildren.
Oh, I see. So that's very nice. Do they live here in Burgeo or
I
not?
have 1 doing.
Oh, very good. So
One lives in David.
you got your grandchildren there anyhow.
3
don't
in
you?
Burgess, yeah, 3 grandchildren.
Very good. Well, anyhow, I'm going to present those medals now, and I think that, you know, it's a very nice medal, and so we'll do it in the ladies first, but I assure you, Mrs. Bowdridge, that it's indeed a privilege for me to be able to present this medal and the certificate to you this afternoon, and thank you on behalf of the Government of Newfoundland and the Government of Canada for the service that you have put in for the community. The Racing Medal, and thank you again for your service to the community, sir.
Speaking with me now is Jim Oxford. He's going to be seeking the seat in this area for the PC party in the upcoming election. What made you decide to run in this upcoming election?
Well, I guess that's a bit of a long story in many regards. I was born and raised, in this particular district, was educated in Ramia, and went on from there. And I've always had a passion, I guess, for the district, for the people in this particular area. I feel that this district have not been represented well in the past. I believe especially that the youth have not been given a fair shake in this particular district, and I will be concentrating rather heavily in that area.
Okay, why did you decide to run in this area?
Well, running again is, one could say, this is my love of politics, if you want to put it that way, and it was obvious that I was going to seek election in some district in the province this time around, and Burgeo Bay d'Espere being the district that I was born in, I decided, that this would be the opportune time to do so.
Where will your headquarters be set up?
Well, we got headquarters in 4 different locations throughout the district. One in Burgeo, there will be one in Ramia, one in St. Albans, and one in Milltown. So we have 4 coordinators, if you will, to run this particular election.
Okay, who will be your campaign manager in Burgeo area?
Well, what we're doing is not appointing one person because of the geographics, if you will, of this particular district is so diverse and different that we felt that it would be better to appoint an individual from each of the areas that I just mentioned, and I believe that we could have a better coordinated campaign by allowing local people to do their own, run their own show, if you will.
Okay, so when will you be in Burgeo again?
Well, right now our campaign scheduled has been going to Ramia tomorrow, and we will spend a week Bay to Spear, starting the door-to-door campaigning, and in respect to Burjo and Ramia for a week of door-to-door campaigning. We will alternate back and forth between the district, for the duration.
Okay, so you said that you did your education and stuff in Ramia. Where are you currently living?
I'm living in Mount Pearl.
Okay, so what are you working at?
I'm the operations manager with the city of Mount Pearl, which I have now set aside, and obviously I will resign that position the moment that I'm successful at this particular venture.
Okay, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I guess that would be other than say that this is a great district, a lot of fine people, and we certainly got a lot of people coming aboard of the campaign at this point in time, and we're very, very, very pleased with the way it's going.
Okay, well, I'm sure that we'll have you back in our studio before everything clues up. So I'd like to wish you luck in your campaign.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be speaking with you again in the near future.
Appreciate the opportunity of appearing on your program.
Workers with Parson's Trucking, the company that did the landscaping for the new healthcare facility, are in town now installing a drainage system in the vicinity of the seniors complex. Workers with Parson's Construction were in town this past week, clewing up some work that was remaining on the site preparations for the new healthcare facility. This past week, they were installing a drainage system along the road that leads from the new healthcare facility onto Reach Road. A cement foundation is being poured just off the parking lot, and culverts are being installed from there down to the main road. As you can see, so far the drain has been dug along by the senior citizens' home. However, due to the frost still being in the ground, the digging is quite difficult. Please stay with us for lots more of This Week in Review coming up after this.
What is 56 Spark Street?
Is that a teenage show?
USC Canada, you know, third world development.
I remember when I was a kid growing up, they used to have those ads on TV with that Lotta Hitch.
I am Lotta H. Manova, Executive Director of the Unitarian Service Committee.
Times have changed, but the message is still the same: concern and caring. I'm Bruce Coburn for USC Canada, 56 Spark Street, Ottawa.
Council workers have completed the construction of the new dog pound, and as of this past week, a new dog catcher has been hired. Dog owners are advised to keep their dogs secure at all times. The municipal dog regulations will be strictly enforced, and anyone in breach of the regulations will be prosecuted. Under the animal control regulations, any person who is guilty of an offense is liable to a fine not exceeding $1,000 or in default of payment thereof to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 90 days. And remember, the only way the dog catcher can know who owns the dog is with his dog tag. So if you don't have a dog tag for your dog, you should get one. They are available at the town office. The Town Council has declared the week of March 3rd to the 7th as Cleanup Week in Burgeo. During Cleanup Week, everyone is asked to become active and help clean up our town. Any groups that want to take part in this event can obtain garbage bags at the town office. The Town Council asks for everyone's cooperation to help get Burgeo clean and help keep it clean in the future. As you can see in the few areas that we visited close to our office, it was no trouble to see large quantities of garbage being thrown around. We have to remember, our community is a direct reflection upon us, so we have to try to keep it clean.
Community events. The ACW will be sponsoring a potluck supper on behalf of the Anglican Church Vestry on Thursday, April 22nd. There is sure to be something to suit everyone's taste. For delicious dinners and desserts, make a date to be at the Anglican Parish Hall for supper on Thursday, April 22nd. Details to be announced later. All proceeds going to the work of the church. Share the Wealth Bingo. The Burgeo Lions Club will be having a Share the Wealth Bingo on Saturday, April 24th, 7:30 p.m. at the Community Center. 6 games Share the Wealth, one $300 game. Tickets will be sold at the bingo on 10 pounds of lobsters. All welcome. There will be a story hour at the public library on Monday, April 12th at 6:30 p.m. for children 3 to 6 years of age.
Well, that's it for tonight's program. Please stay tuned now for Driftwood and Friends. On behalf of BBS and all BBS volunteers, we'd like to wish you a happy Easter. Good night.